how many Democratic presidents have been elected 2 times in the last 50 years?
I don't know the statistics.
So it's an uphill battle for one, just being a Democrat since Clinton. How many have been elected to 2 terms? And then how many have been elected with 8-point-something% unemployment? That is a problem. So, I think that those who say whether it's just the poor or whether it's the overall economy, that you haven't attacked the economics. Travis and Dr. Cornel West, they're thinking about the economics of these people, not whether we have the right to different access. I mean, it's the economic situation that has in some degree deteriorated.
I think, one of the things is that we talk about the health care bill. If you look at it, it's something very interesting is the fact that here's a health care bill that they pushed to Congress, and they had 3 days and 1,000 pages to read in 3 days. And you got to understand that, that we got a Democratic Congress and a Democratic Senate. It's the first time in Clinton, I don't think Clinton ever had that, Democratic Congress and Democratic Senate, to push a health care bill through like that. And that was amazing. But one of the things that there were people trying to tell Obama also, Biden didn't really support the health care bill. Biden told him to focus on the economy.
Yes.
And, there were people trying to tell him to focus on the economy. But the idea is one of the accomplishments, healthcare was important. And this is one of the first things that the healthcare industry supported this healthcare bill because it was a healthcare industry bill. When the left, if you saw Obamacare on Frontline PBS, you had the left going crazy because it was, they took out the public option. And, so the idea is that, that the government can mandate certain things. And, people, you still have people like the Tea Party and are upset because, America was born of choices. We have a choice. We have a freedom of choice. And the fact is that, when you look at the health care bill, where are your choices? Everything is controlled by, we got Wall Street, Washington, and we got a healthcare industry bill that controlled by the healthcare industry. One of the individuals, I think her name is Karen Nine, they all supported the healthcare bill. And the idea, how can you read 1,000 pages and they're pushing, they're looking like, well, we'll change it. We just ran it through. Hopefully we'll fix it in next years to come. And a lot of that was also for middle class people in the middle class. Who are the middle class? White middle class people that get their family members and their kids, can have the health care to 26 years old now. If you're 26, before it was like what, 20, 21, 23.
Well, 23 and then 24 you can.
So the idea is, once again, you throw a home to the middle class, white America. And with Travis Smiley, I talked to Cornel West, and they have a right to. Every individual is through history. You have Frederick Douglass battling Lincoln. Was that Lincoln here? You have to free the slaves. You have to change. Even with Roosevelt, and you had people like who was during Roosevelt time. You had people like what's the guy name?
Paul Robeson.
Paul Robeson, yeah, and Paul Robeson. And you had a few other ones that were challenging Roosevelt.
A. Philip Randolph.
A. Philip Randolph.
As a matter of fact, A. Philip Randolph went into the White House and said to the President Roosevelt, if you don't stop lynching, black people will. And Roosevelt and A. Philip Randolph became a very contentious situation. Well, out of that came the Fair Employment Practices Act, and so on. So, these kinds of things happen. However, I think that we should not necessarily look at presidents, be they black or white, and say we're looking at them in a cosmetic, cultural sense. You're not there cosmetically and culturally to answer to people. You're there to be a substantive person to provide goods and services to people, all the people. And the fact that you're black does not mean that I shouldn't be able to come and ask you, what about me?
Yeah.
And I'm not, and I shouldn't be able to have to say, let me stand in the corner and because I want to preserve history for you while I starve. It doesn't make sense to me.
And also with Martin Luther King, they were Lyndon Johnson and the Kennedys. I mean, that's a question specifically helping poor people, African Americans that needed help. And, you know, the Civil Rights Bill, the Voters' Rights Bill, Fair Housing Act. I mean, all these things that, you know, yes, they have made question the president. You know, and I think that just because they're black people were, you know, I'm black, I'm in office now, you know, you can't question me because we finally made it. I mean, to be honest, a lot of people went to sleep after the election. People fell asleep. And it's no reason why you can't question the president because the president is you can't question him because he's black. No. And this is why you see they're having problems right now with the Congressional Black Caucus. Upset with Obama because Obama's not really, you know, talking to none of them. You know, they're questioning this guy. And like I said before, you know, we have a right because we're Americans to question any president, any mayor, any governor, any senator to do for us as a people. Lyndon Johnson passed laws specifically for what? African Americans. Voters' rights law, you know, different laws he passed, he supported. Because people, African Americans, could not vote. The segregation, there was a lot of issues, and those were laws specifically for African Americans. And, you know, something along with Obama just saying, okay, well, there's a problem. And, you know, and people, you got to realize that we're living in a more multicultural country, but we still have these racial problems and not getting jobs.
To build on that, like, you know, basically, it seems like no one's saying that there's anything wrong with criticizing Obama, and it seems like that's the consensus. So that does have its validity. Now, to build upon that, as the Republican alternative, we really haven't talked about Mitt Romney. Talk a lot about Obama, but is the Republican alternative a viable option for you know, blacks, Hispanics, Asians? And if so, like, because from what I'm understanding from reading up on Romney, he's about expanding free trade, reducing regulation, these sort of things. Do you think the Republican alternative is attractive to people in urban communities like Trenton, Hispanics, and things like that?
No, because expanding free trade or deregulation also, at the end of the day, it speaks to the notion of having the trickle-down theory not to perfect, because those jobs are not going to come to the urban areas. They're just not. They're going to go to urban areas in other countries where you don't have to worry about insurance, where you don't have to worry about benefits for the workers. You don't have to worry about the minimum salaries.
Are you saying no to free trade, or what are you saying?
I'm not saying no to free trade. I'm saying let's have some regulations of free trade. I mean, have some sort of tax for people who do business in other countries that spend less money in those countries to do business there, or to create products in order to bring back here.
There's the countervailing power to that, which is that sounds great, but you are competing in a global market.
Sure.
And capital will flow to where it can be taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
So if it's not the U.S., that capital will just go elsewhere. And you're competing on a global scale. The United States has some of the highest tax rates in the industrialized world. There's no doubt that the correlation between our tax rate and capital flight is very high. So we've got to be realistic about this. Those who are against free trade, for one, will see that trade happen elsewhere.
Well,
and then for two, we've got to be realistic. There are gains from free trade. You make guns, I make butter. I can't make butter, you can't make guns. There's that classic argument of
guns
there are some benefits, and you know, at the end of the day, there is a person perhaps in another country that's willing to do a job for $2 an hour, and you have to pay someone here $10 an hour. Right. This really gets to the point of people understanding basic economics, and that it's a global competition. And that's why I think this election is going to be exceptionally important, because you have two polar opposites. You've got the so-called outsourcing alternative in Romney, right, and you've got the keep the jobs here attitude that we know there are jobs that are no longer going to be here. And I think that what we've got to do is be honest and begin to say, well, what do we do from an education standpoint? What do we do from a training standpoint? How do we diversify our work pool to deal with that new reality? You know, Joe the plumber, for example, isn't really going to be a 21st century, 22nd century type of employment that we should not consider the global scale of what's happening. And so, you know, I think that this really gets down to, well, what is President Obama going to do, and what is Romney going to do? Romney's going to focus on the economy. And if you notice the points I've been making all day, rather, the economy. And so that's what Romney, I think, is going to focus on and say, well, you know, the classic sort of Reagan question, you know, are you better off in 4 years than you were? And there are going to be a lot of people who just aren't. And yeah, we've kind of been there, done that. I'm willing to try someone new, even if he's wealthy.
Does that include those demographics that I mentioned, blacks, Hispanics?
I really do think that there are some people who are going to look at their wallet and say, I don't have any more money. I don't have my mortgage anymore. I don't have a job. I'm willing to try something new. And that's a problem that I think the president's going to have to deal with. Likewise, what's his approach? It's not running on his record.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, people are going to look at their own individual wallets. I mean, if you're homeless and you live on a park bench, you're not going to be worried about what the stock market was today.
Or gay marriage. Or
Right. So what is he running on? Well, he's running on the flaws of Romney. He's an outsourcing president. That's what he's not saying. Look, I told you guys we'd get down to under 7.8% unemployment, and I got you there. That would be an easy win. So I think that this is going to be one of those elections where issues like this are going to be important.
But also, you know, I want to say the people that I'm talking about, but it's a real serious issue for Romney, and that's the whole issue of Mormons being a Mormon. If you look at the primary in the South, where Santorum won a couple states, Newt Gingrich won Georgia, and some of the southern states in the area. You know, there are a lot of conservatives. If you can understand this, the power of the right-wing Christians. And during look at the first election, the Bush-Gore election, there was 3 million right-wing Christians did not come out to vote for Bush. The second time term, they came around because of the gay marriage issue. Now, the idea is that, you know, when I talk to Tea Party friends of mine and other conservative people, you know, around the state, I get phone calls, you know, don't support Romney, you know, because, you know, the idea is the same, it's not conservative enough. The Romney care, which is basically the same thing as almost Obamacare. So the idea is that a lot of Christians in the South, social Christians, they're not going to come out to vote for Romney because he is a Mormon, which they're Christians. That's the Bible. That's how they think. He is there. I'm a Christian. I don't quite understand Mormonism. You know, and some people may think, well, that's good. You know, I think people talked in there yesterday. That sounds like a cult to me. So the idea is, you know, in the North, it's maybe a little different because the Northern Republicans more focus on economy or fiscal conservatives. But when you have a social conservative and you see how Romney could not win the South at all, you know, a lot of Christians aren't coming out. Those conservative, right-wing Christians are not coming out to vote for Romney, and that'll be a major problem for Romney in the South. And, you know, the idea is, you know, and it only comes down to 3 or 4 states. It'll come down to Florida, it'll come down to Pennsylvania, and Ohio, and it comes down to 3, and maybe California, but mostly like California is a big blue state. But it comes down to the independents. What are the independents going to do? Are they in the swings? Because let's look at Pennsylvania. You know, it's like 2 different states. You got Philadelphia, then you got the rest. You got Philadelphia, you got Pittsburgh, then you got the rest of the states, the rest of those areas, which are more likely or